Hello there, and welcome back to the Sleepy Explorer. Tonight, you nestle into your own little cocoon pillows tucked around you, the blanket pressed like a soft horizon across your shoulders, and the quiet hum of the world outside fading into background static. The day has emptied itself out, like a room after guests have gone, and what remains is just you, your breathing, and the gentle rhythm of thought. Above you, if you let your mind wander upward, the sky stretches like a vast dome. It's the kind of ceiling no architect could ever replicate, though plenty of humans have tried by painting stars inside cathedrals or glow-in-the-dark stickers on bedroom walls. And yet, as you imagine tilting your head back, you notice something odd. The sky isn't overflowing with light. Instead, it looks, well, almost bare. For every star, there are acres of nothing. The night sky is not a crowded festival. It's more like a quiet gallery, with a few priceless jewels spaced far apart. Why? Why does the universe, which scientists swear is bursting with matter and energy, present itself to your eyes as mostly empty? This puzzle has haunted humanity for as long as we've stared upward. Philosophers once thought the heavens were crystalline spheres, each dotted with lights that spun above us. Poets turned the blankness into metaphors for longing. And scientists, those tireless night owls with telescopes, have tried to measure and explain that emptiness with equations so long they'd make your math teacher cry. As you breathe and settle deeper, you realize that the empty dark above is not really nothing. It has texture, like velvet stretched tight. It feels heavy, like silence that listens back. The stars scattered across it glow with such tenderness, and yet they are barely a fraction of what exists. Astronomers estimate you can only see about 5,000 stars, with your naked eyes under perfect conditions, no city lights, no haze, just pure darkness. 5,000 out of hundreds of billions in our galaxy alone. Imagine walking into a library with 1 trillion books and being told you can only glance at 5 pages. That's your night sky. And even those 5,000 aren't guaranteed. Most of the time, your eyes catch only a few dozen. The rest are either too faint, too far, or simply hidden by the clutter of atmosphere. That's the irony. The more infinite the cosmos is, the emptier it feels to you. Scientists still argue whether this perception of emptiness is more about the limitations of human biology, your small, light-hungry retinas, or about deeper truths of the cosmos itself. Is the darkness simply your blindness, or is the universe truly dominated by voids where galaxies are sparse? The debate goes on, and will likely keep future stargazers awake, while you lucky you can just use it as a lullaby thought experiment. For now, lie still. Picture yourself stretched out on grass, the scent of earth beneath you, the slow coolness of night wrapping around. The stars above are like old friends, familiar yet unreachable. Between them hangs that grand emptiness, vast enough to hold every question you've ever had. And instead of being frightening, it feels oddly comforting, like space left blank on purpose so your mind has room to wander. Stay with that image a little longer, you lying beneath the dome of night, staring upward into a canvas that seems to hold more black than light. It isn't just you. Even astronomers, with telescopes the size of houses, often point their instruments at the heavens and record nothing. Entire photographs of the sky come back black, except for a single grainy dot or a faint smudge that might, if you squint, turn out to be a galaxy. That smudge? It could contain billions of stars, yet to your eyes it's almost invisible. This is one of the great paradoxes of stargazing. The more you know, the emptier it feels. You discover that stars are everywhere, but not for you. They're locked away behind distance and time. Light, that patient traveller, has to cross unimaginable gulfs to reach you. Some photons have been on the road for millions of years, weaving past dust clouds, dodging gravity wells, losing strength as they go. By the time they touch your eye, they're like marathon runners stumbling across the finish line, exhausted, dim, barely present. No wonder most of them never make it. Think of it like living in a crowded city, but only hearing whispers from a few apartments. The walls are too thick, the streets too wide, and most conversations never reach you. You live in the universe's most crowded metropolis, yet it sounds like an abandoned town. Here's a quirky tidbit. In 1995, the Hubble Space Telescope aimed at what looked like the emptiest patch of sky imaginable, an area so small it was like staring at a grain of sand held at arm's length. People expected a blank image. Instead, The exposure revealed thousands of galaxies, each brimming with stars. In other words, what you think is empty is only secretly crowded. It's just that your eyes can't unlock the party. Scientists still debate what this tells us about the true nature of the universe. Does the cosmos hide its abundance behind veils of distance and faintness? Or is there a deeper architectural reason why vast voids exist at all? Even with better telescopes, the conversation remains unsettled. Every answer leads to new questions, and meanwhile, you remain here gazing upward, marveling at the emptiness that is only partly real. It's easy to let the darkness feel intimidating, but if you soften your focus, it becomes a kind of balm. The emptiness is what allows the stars to shine, without overwhelming you. Imagine if the whole sky were lit wall to wall with blazing suns. You wouldn't see constellations, you wouldn't tell stories, and you definitely wouldn't sleep. The darkness, in that sense, is a gift, a backdrop that turns scattered points into patterns, myths, and meaning. And while you may think of the night sky as timeless, remember, the stars you see are already gone, in a sense. Some of them have died, exploded or faded long before their light ever reached your eyes. You're gazing at cosmic ghosts, frozen in the act of shining. The emptiness between those ghosts becomes the stage on which you imagine continuity, though in reality, the show has already ended. So here you are, wrapped in blankets, looking at an ancient performance across a nearly blank canvas. The stars twinkle like a few candles left burning after the audience has left the theatre. And the vast black rows of empty seats, that's the universe. A hushed hall so massive you can't see the ceiling, yet intimate enough to hold you in its silence. Imagine for a moment that the darkness above you is not a lack, but a presence. Astronomers sometimes describe the universe not as being filled with stars, but as being filled with voids, immense cosmic bubbles where galaxies are rare. Between these voids lie thin filaments of matter, like spiderwebs spun on scales you can't fathom. You happen to live inside one of those filaments, clinging to a bright speck of dust called Earth, orbiting an average star. From your little balcony in space, you peer outward, and the overwhelming structure of reality explains itself not through light, but through silence. And yet, the silence isn't absolute. Space has its whispers. There is the faint cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang still shimmering across the void at a temperature barely above zero. If your eyes were tuned differently, you wouldn't see emptiness at all. You'd see the sky glowing faintly with relic light. The blackness isn't black, it's a canvas soaked in the oldest radiation in existence, a quiet memory of creation itself. Here's a little aside. Some scientists joke that the universe is like a badly tuned radio. If you've ever seen static fuzz on an old television screen, about 1% of that snow comes from this ancient cosmic background. So technically, every time you watched late-night television before bed, part of what you were seeing was the Big Bang itself. Who needs fancy telescopes when you had a 1,992nd box set humming in your living room? Still, even with this hidden glow, the sky to your eyes appears empty. Your biology simply wasn't built to register cosmic static. Instead, your retinas grasp at the brightest survivors, the moon, the planets, a scattering of stars, and the rest, darkness. The irony is that the emptiness you perceive is actually more informative than the light itself. Scientists argue over whether the true story of the cosmos lies not in the glittering dots, but in the dark stretches between them. Those voids hold clues about how matter clumped, how galaxies formed, and whether dark energy will keep stretching space until everything is too far to see. So the next time you glance upward and sigh at how little there is, remember, the emptiness is not a mistake. It's a feature. It's the negative space that allows the positive to mean anything. Without the void, stars wouldn't shine. Without the dark, your eyes wouldn't rest. The quiet canvas above is not blank. It's alive with absence, which is just as important as presence. And now, tucked into your blanket, you begin to feel that truth settling over you. The night sky doesn't need to be crowded to feel infinite. Its sparseness is its beauty. Its silence is its music. And as your thoughts drift gently, you begin to realize that the empty spaces of the cosmos mirror the empty spaces within you, the pauses between breaths, the gaps between heartbeats, the little silences that make life's rhythm possible. The canvas above is not crowded, but neither are you. And in that quiet, You and the universe finally match, vast, serene, and comfortably incomplete. You close your eyes for a moment, and when you open them again, you imagine yourself standing under a pitch-dark sky, far away from cities, car headlights, or glowing billboards. The air feels crisp, the silence immense. Here, finally, the heavens reveal themselves in something close to their natural form. And yet, even now, even under the most perfect stargazing conditions, you see only a few thousand points of light. That's it. A few thousand, sprinkled across a dome that should contain billions upon billions of stars. Think about that for a moment. The Milky Way alone is home to perhaps 200 to 400 billion stars, depending on whose estimate you trust. And beyond our galaxy, astronomers believe there are at least 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. That's not just a full house, that's a cosmic traffic jam. Yet here you stand, gazing up, and your brain, with all its anticipation, registers maybe 2,000 stars if you're in the northern hemisphere, and another 000 if you travel south. Your maximum visual ticket to the cosmos, about 5,000, out of trillions upon trillions. It's a little like walking into a grand feast and being handed a single bread roll. Not exactly overwhelming. Here's the kicker. Those thousands of stars you do see are all relatively local. Most belong to our galactic neighborhood, lying within a few thousand light-years of Earth. A cosmic stone's throw, really. The rest, the distant fireworks, the crowded stellar nurseries, the exotic systems, are invisible. They either hide behind the dimness of distance or vanish into the haze of interstellar dust. A fun tidbit here. The brightest star you see, Sirius, is just 8.6 light-years away. That means its light left around the same time you were in elementary school, give or take. In contrast, the faintest stars visible without a telescope might be hundreds or even thousands of light-years away. Their light began its journey before recorded human history. Some of those stars might not even exist anymore, but you still see them as they were, flickering like postcards delivered centuries late. Scientists still debate how much of our perception is skewed by biology. Your retina contains rods and cones, specialized light detectors, but rods are more sensitive to dim light. That's why when you look slightly away from a faint star using what astronomers call averted vision, you actually see it more clearly. Try it sometime. Shift your gaze just off to the side, and the night reveals more. It's a trick of anatomy, turning your peripheral vision into a telescope. But even with these tricks, the human eye is hopelessly limited. You were never designed to compete with the Hubble Space Telescope. What you see is a filtered slice of the universe, like peeking through a narrow keyhole into a vast ballroom. You know the party is bigger than the crack in the door, but that doesn't make the crack any wider. So the irony is this. When you count the stars, you're really counting your own limits. The ceiling isn't up there, it's built into your vision. And the emptiness you feel while stargazing is partly the echo of your own biology, whispering, "That's all I can give you tonight." Imagine for a moment that you had the patience to actually count, not just glance at the sky, but sit there with a notebook, night after night, tallying each star you could see. Astronomers in the ancient world tried something like this. Hipparchus, the Greek astronomer in the 2nd century BCE, created one of the first star catalogues, listing about 850 visible stars. To him, that was a map of the universe, a complete picture, or so he thought. Fast forward to modern stargazers, and the number rises, but only into the low thousands. Even with the clearest skies, you'll max out around 5,000, and then the counting stops, not because the stars stop, but because your vision does. It's humbling. You live inside a galaxy so vast it takes light 100,000 years to cross it, yet your eyes offer you a glimpse of the tiniest sliver. It's like living in a skyscraper with 100 billion windows and only being able to peek out of one. No wonder the sky feels empty, it's a trick of scale. Here's a quirky tidbit. The human eye is about as sensitive as a small telescope with a lens diameter of 7 millimeters. That's roughly the size of your fully dilated pupil in the dark. Compare that to even a modest backyard telescope, say 200 millimeters across, and you suddenly gather thousands of times more light. In other words, your eye is like a coffee straw trying to drink in an ocean. The telescope is at least a soup ladle. Scientists still argue whether this naked eye ceiling influences our psychology. Some believe our myths, religions, and sense of cosmic scale were shaped by this limited star count. If you had always seen millions of stars without a telescope, would you have imagined the heavens differently? Would constellations even exist, or would the sky be too crowded to connect dots into shapes? Maybe you'd never have Orion the Hunter or Ursa Major the Bear, just a blinding wallpaper of stars, too many to organize. As it stands, your few thousand companions are just enough to spark imagination, not so many as to overwhelm it. That scarcity gives each star importance. You can point and say, that one is Vega, or that cluster is the Pleiades. If the whole sky blazed evenly, the individuality would vanish. It's strange to realize, but your limited eyesight might be the very thing that makes the sky meaningful. Another curious fact: in dark sky, preserves today, remote areas free from light pollution, people often report feeling dizzy when they first look up. Their eyes aren't used to seeing even a few thousand stars at once. The dome seems alive, almost overwhelming. It's a reminder that in your daily life the true night sky is hidden. Street lamps, neon signs, glowing phone screens, they all wash out the stars. Most people alive today will never see the full few thousand that their ancestors once took for granted. For many city dwellers, the night sky contains maybe a dozen faint dots, out of billions. And yet, that scarcity doesn't diminish wonder. In fact, it amplifies it. When you notice just one bright star cutting through city haze, it feels like a personal gift, a lone diamond against velvet. Perhaps the universe understands that sometimes less is more. Think of how odd this is. Every night sky you've ever known, every childhood memory of lying on your back, every late walk home, every camping trip under the stars, has been framed by this strict ceiling of visibility. A few thousand stars, no more. That's the human condition, written in starlight. And yet, you're part of a galaxy so crowded that if you could somehow teleport to its core, the stars would pack the sky like glitter thrown in your face. From there, night might never exist. The sky would glow perpetually with starlight. But here, on Earth, at the outskirts of the Milky Way, you're treated to a minimalist version. Sparse, delicate, restrained. Here's a fun tidbit. The Andromeda Galaxy, the closest large galaxy to ours, is technically visible to the naked eye on a clear night. Most people mistake it for a faint smudge, like a drop of milk on glass. But that hazy blur contains about 1 trillion stars. You see it as a thumbprint in the sky. In reality, it's an empire of suns. That contrast between perception and reality defines your relationship with the universe. Scientists still argue whether humanity's limited window onto the sky has slowed or accelerated our curiosity. Did we become explorers because the heavens seemed scarce and mysterious? Or would we have been paralyzed by abundance if the whole firmament had been ablaze? Some say ignorance was the spark. By not seeing most of the cosmos, we were compelled to invent stories, to build telescopes, to ask questions. The emptiness itself became the invitation. So tonight, when you tilt your head back and count, remember, you're not just tallying stars, you're brushing against the boundary of your biology. The few thousand lights you see are the tip of a colossal iceberg. Beyond them lie billions upon billions hidden, waiting, humming faintly across distances so wide they bend the mind. Your eyes may fall short, but your imagination stretches further than any telescope. And as you rest, that imagination is what matters. You don't need to see all the stars to know they're there. You carry them anyway, tucked behind your eyelids like secret lanterns. The universe doesn't punish you for not seeing everything. It rewards you by letting mystery linger. The handful of stars overhead are just enough to keep wonder alive, and just few enough to let sleep drift in. The sky feels empty, but that emptiness is only a trick of perspective. What you're really staring into is fullness beyond measure, disguised as blackness. A universe too generous for your tiny pupils. And perhaps that's the loveliest part of all. You let your gaze linger on the stars you can see, those few thousand pinpricks scattered across the dome. And then your mind drifts to an unsettling thought. They look close together, clustered like dots of paint, but in truth, they are unimaginably far apart. Distance is the hidden architect of the sky's emptiness. Take the nearest star beyond our sun, Proxima Centauri. It's only 4.2 light-years away. That sounds manageable. like a weekend road trip measured in cosmic terms. But translated into miles, and you're staring at more than 25 trillion of them. Even if you boarded the fastest spacecraft ever built, you wouldn't arrive in thousands of human lifetimes. That close neighbour might as well be sealed behind an eternal glass wall. And that's the nearest. The rest? Forget it. Most of the stars you see are dozens, hundreds, or thousands of light years away. Each one is a flare across a gulf so immense your brain refuses to picture it. You can try analogies like, if the Earth were a pea, Proxima Centauri would be another pea hundreds of miles away. Or if the Sun were a beach ball on a football field, Alpha Centauri would be a second beach ball 24 fields away. But every analogy collapses, because human imagination wasn't built for infinity. Here's a quirky tidbit. When astronauts orbit Earth in the International Space Station, they're technically only about 400 kilometers above you. That's nothing, barely the width of a fingertip if Earth were a globe. Yet from that modest height, they already see the planet curve, already feel suspended in black. So, if a few hundred kilometers is enough to make Earth look like a fragile marble, what does 25 trillion miles mean for the space between suns? Scientists still debate the psychological effects of contemplating such vast scales. Some argue that distance dulls wonder, making the sky feel sterile. Others believe it deepens awe, forcing you to surrender. After all, the fact that starlight can even cross such gulfs to reach your eyes is miraculous. Every point of light above you is a survivor, a photon marathoner who has travelled longer and farther than any human journey could dream of. And yet, because the stars are so far, they collapse together in your view. Distances flatten into a 2D canvas, like sequins sewn onto fabric. Two stars that appear side by side might in reality be separated by hundreds of light years, like distant cities seen across a map. You read them as neighbours, but they're strangers. That illusion of closeness makes the sky seem sprinkled with modest handfuls, not the sprawling three-dimensional ocean it truly is. So the emptiness you perceive is distance disguised as darkness. The stars aren't absent, they're simply too far for your mind to sort. You're standing at the shoreline of a sea so vast you can't even see the waves, only a few glowing buoys flickering faintly. Picture yourself walking into a vast desert at night. Sand stretches in every direction, dunes piled high, yet from your limited perspective, it feels like empty space with only a handful of visible shapes. The night sky is the same, the stars are countless, but the sheer distances between them carve out gulfs so wide they disguise abundance as scarcity. Astronomers like to point out that the average distance between stars in our region of the Milky Way is about 5 light years. 5. That might not sound like much until you remember that light, the fastest traveller in the cosmos, takes 5 entire years to cross that space. If the Sun were the size of a marble, the nearest star would be another marble sitting 700 kilometers away. Imagine scattering marbles across a continent that's your galaxy. It's no wonder the sky looks like a sparse sprinkle of dots rather than a glowing web. Here's a curious tidbit. Voyager 1, humanity's farthest travelling spacecraft, has been speeding away from Earth since 1977. After more than 4 decades, it has travelled just over 22 billion kilometres. That's impressive, but compared to the 25 trillion kilometres to Proxima Centauri, it hasn't even left the cosmic driveway. If the journey to the next star were a cross-country trek, Voyager has walked less than the first step. Scientists still argue whether humanity's brain is even capable of grasping such scales. Your neurons evolved to measure steps, fields, and maybe horizons. Distances like light years aren't just abstract, they're alien. When you try to imagine them, you get a flicker of awe followed by mental static, as if your brain politely shuts the door on infinity. Some call this the cosmic vertigo effect, a dizziness that comes from staring too hard at the numbers. But here's the gentle paradox. While those distances make the universe appear empty, they also make every star more precious. The fact that light crosses such gulfs and still manages to touch your eyes is staggering. Each photon is a survivor, slipping between obstacles, enduring unimaginable time, only to end its journey inside your retina. The glow you see isn't just illumination, it's a story of endurance. Think of Betelgeuse, the red supergiant in Orion. It sits about 642 light-years away. That means the light you see tonight left during the early 1400 second when Chaucer's tales were still fresh in people's minds and the Ming dynasty was building Beijing's Forbidden City. Every star above you is a time machine, and distance is the key that makes it possible. The sky feels empty not because there isn't enough light, but because the light that does reach you is aged, thinned, and diluted across centuries of travel. So the next time you notice a gap of darkness between stars, try reframing it. That gap is not nothingness, it's a gulf, where light is still on the way. Somewhere, out in those black patches, new photons are racing toward you, destined to arrive long after you're gone. The universe isn't withholding stars, it's simply on a different clock. The truth is, distance is the universe's greatest magician. It stretches, bends, and dilutes reality until your eyes mistake plenty for emptiness. The Milky Way alone is a sprawling city of stars, yet because each building block is so far apart, you see only a handful glowing at night. Imagine standing in Times Square, but all the lights are switched off except a few flickering bulbs. Suddenly, the world's busiest intersection feels abandoned. And this distance isn't just physical, it's temporal. Light travels fast, but not instantly. The starlight you see is ancient. Some of those stars may no longer exist, yet their photons still journey onward, painting the sky as if nothing changed. You're gazing not at the present, but at scattered fragments of the past. The vastness of space edits your vision into a delayed broadcast, a highlight reel of long-gone moments. Here's a tidbit you might enjoy. When astronomers photograph distant galaxies, they're often capturing light that left billions of years ago. Some images reveal galaxies as they were when Earth itself was still molten rock. So, in a way, your night sky doubles as a museum. Those tiny flecks of light are fossils, preserved not in stone, but in photons stretched thin across eternity. Scientists still debate how to emotionally process this. Some insist that distance is alienating. It reminds us how small and cut off we are. Others see the opposite. That distance is connection, proof that the universe is still reaching you despite unimaginable barriers. After all, even if Betelgeuse exploded centuries ago, its light continues to brush against your skin tonight. Isn't that a kind of intimacy? And yet, the irony lingers. When you look up, you don't see billions of stars. You see a few scattered dots, separated by yawning gulfs. The sky feels empty because the architecture of space conspires to keep neighbors apart. Your imagination fills in the gaps, but your eyes can't. The emptiness is both illusion and truth, a veil stitched by distance. So, as you sink deeper into your pillow, let the vastness soothe you instead of frighten you. The distances that make the heavens look bare are also what allow the stars to be visible at all. If everything were close, the sky might blaze constantly, leaving no room for quiet, no place for dreams. Distance softens the light, sprinkles it, and turns the infinite into a gentle scattering. The blackness above is not failure, it's design, a reminder that you're watching an ocean from the shore, and what looks like stillness is simply waves too far to see. Tonight, the cosmos feels empty. In truth, it's just too grand for your tiny window of vision, and perhaps that's the sweetest comfort, the knowledge that behind the dark, there is always more. You've already noticed how distance tricks your eyes into thinking the sky is empty, but there's another culprit at work: faintness. Light itself may be abundant, but most of it arrives too weak to register. The stars and galaxies burn, yes, but by the time their glow crosses cosmic distances, it has thinned to whispers. Your eyes, though marvels of biology, are not sensitive enough to catch the majority of those whispers. Think about it. The sun, our ordinary star, is dazzling so bright that looking directly at it will fry your retinas. Yet move it just a couple dozen light years away, and it would fade into invisibility, lost in the background. The brightest object in your sky is bright only because it's close. Almost every other star, no matter how massive or fiery, would vanish if placed at the wrong distance. The cosmos is full of bonfires you'll never see because their flames are smothered by distance. Here's a curious tidbit. Galaxies like the Triangulum Galaxy or the Sculptor Galaxy are technically visible to the naked eye under perfect dark sky conditions. But most people have never seen them. Why? Their light is faint, spread across too wide an area. Your retina gathers photons like a bucket catching raindrops, but the drizzle is so thin it slips past unnoticed. A telescope, by contrast, acts like a giant rain collector. Suddenly the drizzle fills a reservoir, and faint smudges bloom into spirals. Scientists still argue how much of the universe remains hidden simply because our biology is tuned to survival, not stargazing. Your eyes evolved to spot fruit in trees and predators in bushes, not to parse dim galaxies billions of light years away. What seems like emptiness is really your evolutionary trade-off. Better night vision on Earth, worse cosmic vision in the sky. A bat might envy your colour perception, but in the business of faint starlight, you lose every time. It's strange, isn't it? You're wrapped in a blanket, gazing upward, and the darkness above you is thick with light too delicate for you to notice. Photons are striking your eyes right now from galaxies you'll never see. They slip through your awareness like fireflies escaping through a screen door. The night sky is not an absence of stars. It's an overabundance filtered by your limits. And that's why astronomers build tools, telescopes, detectors, observatories placed high on mountaintops or floating in orbit. Machines don't get sleepy eyes or constricted pupils. They collect faintness and stack it into clarity. The iconic Hubble Deep Field image is proof. What looked empty to your gaze turned out to be a swarm of galaxies, each faint beyond human recognition, until technology gathered their whispers into a choir. So tonight, as you stare into the dark, imagine it humming with invisible light. The universe is shining. You just can't hear most of the notes. The stars and galaxies haven't abandoned you. They're simply performing in a range beyond your ears. Imagine for a moment that your eyes could be upgraded, like trading your current lenses for the sensitivity of a hawk, or better yet, for the detectors of a giant telescope. Suddenly the sky above would explode into detail. What seems like empty black would reveal countless faint stars, nebulous clouds, and galaxies shimmering at the edge of perception. The truth is, the night sky is already flooded with light. You're simply not wired to receive it. Think of the Andromeda Galaxy again. It's the farthest thing visible without a telescope, about 2.5 million light-years away. To your naked eye, it's nothing more than a faint smudge, the kind of mark you'd brush off your glasses. Yet, in reality, Andromeda contains 1 trillion stars. 1 trillion. That's more than 200 times the number of stars in the Milky Way that you can see unaided. And still, most people on Earth live and die without ever noticing that ghostly blur. The galaxy is there every night. Your eyes just fail to pull it into focus. Here's a quirky tidbit. If you held out a dime at arm's length, the area it covers in the sky could contain thousands of galaxies too faint to see. Telescopes like Hubble or the James Webb Space Telescope confirm this every time they stare at a blank region of sky. Point a sensitive enough camera into nothingness, and the nothingness fills with everything. It's like dipping an empty cup into the ocean and realizing it overflows with plankton once you magnify the water. Scientists still debate the balance between light and darkness in the universe. Some argue that most galaxies are too faint ever to be detected, even with future technology, because their stars are sparse and their glow weak. Others believe that as detectors improve, we'll keep uncovering more, rewriting our sense of cosmic population again and again. The question lingers: is the faintness an impenetrable curtain, or just a temporary limitation of our tools? For you, though, the faint light dilemma is part of the dreamlike quality of the night sky. You sit under a blanket of darkness knowing it is not truly dark. It's more like a stage where the spotlights are dimmed, most of the actors hidden in the shadows, only the brightest step forward, leaving you to imagine the vast ensemble waiting behind them. And there's poetry in that. If every star were visible, the sky would be overwhelming, chaotic, blinding. Instead, the faintness edits reality, curating your view into something serene. The galaxies may be too dim to register, but their presence shapes the silence between stars. The very fact that you don't see them is part of the experience. So tonight, as your breathing slows, picture the darkness above as a woven fabric, every thread faint with hidden light. Your eyes can't pick out the threads, but they're there, stretching across space like silver cobwebs. The sky isn't empty, it's just written in ink too pale for your vision to read. Think about how often faintness shapes your experience, even beyond the sky. In a crowded room, your ears can only pick up the closest voices. The distant conversations blur into background hum. The universe works the same way. Only the loudest, brightest stars cut through the noise, while countless faint ones remain hidden in the hush. This is why astronomers sometimes describe the cosmos as light poor, not because stars don't produce enough, but because by the time their glow arrives here, it's been stretched thin by distance and diluted by time. Imagine shining a flashlight across a football stadium. At the other end, the beam is barely more than a sigh. Now stretch that to billions of light years, and you understand why most of the universe vanishes into blackness. Here's a fascinating tidbit. Many galaxies aren't just faint because of distance, they're faint by nature. So-called low-surface brightness galaxies are diffuse, their stars spread out like whispers in a crowd. Even powerful telescopes sometimes struggle to notice them. They are cosmic introverts, existing quietly, invisible unless you know how to look. Some astronomers believe there may be more of these dim galaxies than the bright ones, meaning most of the universe's structure is effectively hidden in shadow. Scientists still debate how much of the missing light in the universe is real absence and how much is simply invisible to us. Dark matter complicates the story too. It doesn't shine, it doesn't reflect, it doesn't glow, yet its gravity shapes galaxies, bends light, and fills the cosmos. So when you stare into the sky and see faintness, you're not just witnessing limits of biology, you're brushing against the fabric of mystery itself. The debate rages: is the darkness filled with unseen matter, or are we only blinded by our narrow tools? Perhaps both. But here's the gentle comfort. Faintness preserves wonder. If every galaxy burned bright in your sky, there would be no quiet, no space for imagination. The darkness between stars is like the silence between musical notes, essential for rhythm, essential for beauty. The faintness reminds you that not everything must be seen to exist. Sometimes, the hidden truth is what makes the scene so meaningful. As you rest under your blanket, you can let the thought settle. Above you hangs a universe blazing with light, most of it too faint to notice. You're not excluded, you're simply invited to dream. The galaxies don't need to shout, they're content to hum, quietly, across the void. And you, in this moment, can let that hum lull you towards sleep, knowing that the faintness is not emptiness but a whispering abundance. So far, you've seen how distance and faintness create the illusion of emptiness. But there's another layer to the trick, a kind of cosmic curtain drawn across the stage. It's dust. Not the kind under your bed, though that might be equally mysterious, but the fine grains that drift through interstellar space, dimming and distorting the stars behind them. Cosmic dust sounds humble, almost laughable, compared to galaxies and supernovae, yet these tiny particles, fragments of carbon, silicates, and frozen gases, play an outsized role in shaping what you see. They absorb starlight, scatter it, and sometimes block it altogether. To your eyes, a rich cluster of stars might vanish into shadow, hidden behind a dusty veil. The universe doesn't always announce its treasures. It tucks them away like secrets in a fog. Here's a quirky tidbit. If you've ever noticed that stars near the horizon twinkle more than those overhead, dust is partly to blame. When starlight cuts through more atmosphere and particulate matter, it wobbles and shimmers like a candle seen through smoke. The twinkle isn't the star dancing, it's Earth's layers and cosmic dust conspiring to play tricks on your perception. Scientists still debate how much dust influences our grand picture of the cosmos. Some argue that it's a minor nuisance, easily corrected by clever instruments. Others point out that entire regions of the galaxy are hidden dark clouds where stars form but remain unseen. The Orion Nebula, for example, glows brightly in visible light, but infrared images reveal countless stars still swaddled in dusty cocoons. Without special telescopes, you'd never know they existed. Dust doesn't just block the view, it edits reality, deciding what you get to notice. Imagine lying under your blanket now and picturing these veils, great rivers of microscopic grains, drifting like smoke between stars. They sculpt illusions in the night sky, patches of darkness that look like emptiness but are, in truth, crowded nurseries of creation. The Coalsack Nebula near the Southern Cross looks like a hole punched into the Milky Way, but it isn't an absence. It's a dust cloud so thick it smothers starlight. Behind it, stars burn quietly, hidden from naked eyes. And here's the poetic irony. The very dust that hides stars is also what builds them. These grains are the raw material of planets, moons, even life itself. Every breath you take contains atoms once bound up in cosmic dust. So when you peer into the night and see emptiness shaped by veils, you're also looking at your own origin. The universe hides you and reveals you at the same time. If you could swap your human eyes for infrared vision, the night sky would transform instantly. Instead of dark patches cutting across the Milky Way, you'd see glowing clouds of hidden stars, entire nurseries bursting with light. Dust blocks visible wavelengths, but allows infrared to slip through, like sheer curtains that hide only part of a window. Astronomers learned long ago to use this trick, building instruments that can peer through the veils and reveal what's underneath. One famous example is the Eagle Nebula, with its towering pillars of creation. In visible light, the scene looks dramatic, dark columns rising against a glowing background. But switch to infrared, and those pillars, made of dust, become transparent. Inside them, stars in their infancy twinkle for the first time, invisible to naked eyes. What looks like emptiness in one wavelength is a festival of birth in another. Here's a curious tidbit. Cosmic dust isn't just floating in deep space. It rains down on Earth all the time. Scientists estimate that around 5,000 tons of cosmic dust settle on our planet each year. Tiny particles, smaller than grains of sand, drift through the atmosphere and eventually land on rooftops, oceans, and sidewalks. You might have cosmic dust on your desk right now without knowing it. That veil in the sky literally falls onto your shoulders. Scientists still debate how much of the universe's star formation is hidden behind dust. Galaxies seen in visible light often look modest, but when viewed in infrared, they light up with furious activity. Some even earn the name starburst galaxies, where hidden behind dusty curtains, stars are being born at hundreds of times the rate seen in the Milky Way. Are we living in a calm galaxy, or does dust simply make ours look quiet compared to others? The question isn't fully settled. And dust doesn't just hide stars, it changes their colour. Starlight passing through clouds is reddened, the way sunlight looks orange and pink when filtered through Earth's atmosphere at sunset. Astronomers call this interstellar reddening. What seems like the natural hue of a star may be an edited version, tinted by billions of miles of dust. The veil isn't neutral, it paints as well as hides. So as you picture the night sky now, imagine it layered like an old painting. First, the bright stars you can see. Then, behind them, smudges and strokes of dust, muting some lights, erasing others, altering colours. And finally, hidden underneath, the stars and galaxies that shine too faintly for your unaided eye. The emptiness above you isn't a blank canvas, it's a layered work of art, with dust as the brush that both conceals and creates. And here's the gentle reminder, you, too, are stardust. Every atom of carbon in your body was once inside a star, then expelled into space as dust, later recycled into planets, oceans, and people. The very particles that obscure your view of the cosmos are the same ones that made your lungs, your bones, or your heartbeat. The veil above you is also your veil. The universe hides itself, but never completely you carry the evidence within your cells. Think again of lying under the night sky, staring at those dark lanes that cut across the Milky Way like rivers of shadow. To your unaided eyes, they look like holes, places where the stars simply stop. But the truth is almost the opposite. Those dark patches are some of the busiest places in the galaxy. They are stellar nurseries, incubators, where gravity slowly pulls dust and gas into knots, where new suns begin to glow inside their dusty cocoons. What you see as absence is actually abundance, hidden behind the curtain. Here's a poetic tidbit. In some cultures, those dark rifts in the Milky Way became mythic creatures. The Inca saw them as animals, llamas, foxes, serpents lurking in the sky. Instead of connecting dots of stars into constellations, they read the darkness itself as patterns. To them, the veil was not an obstacle but a canvas. It's a reminder that what you call emptiness depends as much on imagination as on physics. Scientists still argue how to best account for dust when measuring the universe. Even the brightest supernova can look dimmer if its light passes through interstellar clouds. Astronomers must constantly correct their observations, estimating how much dust is interfering. The margin for error can be huge. Some even suggest that our measurements of cosmic expansion the so-called dark energy puzzle, might partly be tangled with how dust behaves on the larger scales. The veil complicates not only what you see, but also what you think you know. And yet, without dust, the universe would be sterile. No stars, no planets, no life. The same grains that dim starlight also build the scaffolding for creation. When you look into those cosmic clouds, you're peeking into the womb of galaxies. Every future planet, every potential life form is being assembled there, one microscopic particle at a time. So tonight, as you drift deeper under your blanket, think of those veils above as both obstacle and promise. They hide the stars you long to see, yes, but they also promise that the story isn't finished. Behind every dark lane lies a generation of suns not yet born, a constellation waiting to step out from behind the curtain. The night sky looks empty because dust edits the show, but like any curtain, it hides only for a time. One day, those stars will shine through, and new dust will gather, starting the cycle again. You, meanwhile, lie quietly beneath it all, a child of dust gazing up at the dust that birthed you. And in that symmetry, the emptiness feels less like loss and more like belonging. Take a moment to picture your cosmic mailing address. Not just your street, not just your city, or even your country. Stretch it outward, Earth third planet from the Sunday. The solar system, orbiting inside the Milky Way galaxy. And here's the fun part, not just anywhere in the galaxy, but out in the suburbs, on the edge of a spiral arm. You live in a galactic cul-de-sac, quiet and relatively empty compared to the bright, bustling downtown of the Milky Way's core. If you could fly toward the center of the galaxy, the view would change dramatically. Instead of thousands of stars scattered across the sky, you'd see millions dense, glowing, packed so closely together that night might never truly fall. In the core, the Milky Way is like Times Square at midnight, dazzling, chaotic, brilliant. But Earth sits far away, on the Orion Arm, a modest little spur between two larger arms. It's more like the sleepy suburbs where streetlights are few and the nights are dark. The reason your sky looks sparse is partly because you don't live downtown. Here's a curious tidbit. If you could stand near the galactic center, the stars would be so close together that some would cast shadows, just like street lamps on Earth. Imagine walking through a world where shadows overlap not from one sun, but from dozens of suns shining in different directions. To us, that sounds like science fiction, but to stars near the core, it's just the neighborhood. Scientists still debate whether our position is lucky or limiting. On one hand, living in the suburbs shields us from the chaos of the core supernovae, radiation storms, gravitational mayhem from the central black hole. Too close to the middle, and life as we know it might never have formed. On the other hand, it means our night sky looks quieter, lonelier, less dramatic. We see only the faint hints of the Milky Way's spiral, not the fireworks of its heart. So tonight, as you lie under your blanket, think of yourself not as lost in emptiness, but as living in a quiet district of a much larger city. Out here, space is wide, streets are empty, neighbors are distant. It may look lonely, but it's also peaceful, just the sort of place where life can take root, evolve, and look back at the stars with curiosity. The emptiness of your sky isn't absence. It's the calm of a cosmic suburb, the gentle hush that makes your little corner possible. When you zoom out far enough, the idea of Earth as a cosmic suburb becomes clearer. Astronomers sometimes call our spot the Orion Spur, a minor arm branching between two grander highways of stars, the Perseus Arm and the Sagittarius Arm. If the Milky Way were a glittering pinwheel, we'd be perched halfway down one of the smaller blades, far from the glowing nucleus at the center. It's not the glamorous part of town, but it's stable and stability matters. Think of the galactic core as a frantic downtown. Stars there, crowds so close together that their orbits weave around each other like cars in traffic. There's a supermassive black hole, Sagittarius A, lurking at the center with a mass 4 million times that of the Sun, stirring the chaos. Supernovae erupt more often, radiation flares sweep through, and gravitational tides tug constantly at everything nearby. Exciting, yes, but would you really want to raise a planetary system there? Out here, in the outskirts, things are quieter. Quieter skies mean calmer conditions, which may have been essential for life to evolve on Earth. Here's a quirky tidbit. Scientists believe the so-called galactic habitable zone, avoids both the inner frenzy and the outer emptiness. Too close to the core, and radiation sterilizes planets. Too far on the rim, and there may not be enough heavy elements, carbon, oxygen, iron for life to form. Earth happens to sit in a sweet spot, like Goldilocks finding her just right porridge. Your cosmic address isn't random, it's a stroke of fortune written in starlight. Still, there's a trade-off. Being in the suburbs means the sky appears sparse. If you lived on a planet near the core, you might see the sky ablaze with thousands of stars so bright they'd cast overlapping shadows. Night would glow like twilight, with no true darkness. Constellations would vanish into the clutter. Navigation by stars, the trick sailors used for centuries, would be nearly impossible. In that sense, your quiet sky is a gift, even if it feels empty at first glance. Scientists still debate just how much our galactic address has shaped human history. Did the peaceful skies encourage us to look up and imagine, rather than duck for cover from constant cosmic fireworks? Would philosophy, myth, or even science itself have been possible if the heavens were blinding instead of subtle? The emptiness you see each night may have been the canvas that gave your species room to paint stories and questions. So when you lie back and trace the arc of the Milky Way faintly across the sky, you're seeing the main boulevard from your side street. The galactic core glows faintly, like the city skyline on a distant horizon. You don't live downtown, but you can see its shimmer from afar. And perhaps that's the perfect balance. Close enough to know the city exists, far enough to enjoy the quiet of your own yard. Think of your cosmic suburb the way you might think of a quiet town on the edge of a bustling metropolis. There aren't many streetlights, the nights are still, and you can hear the crickets instead of car horns. That's Earth's place in the galaxy, removed from the chaos, but still close enough to sense the pulse of the greater whole. The Milky Way itself is a barred spiral galaxy, about 100,000 light-years across, home to hundreds of billions of stars. If you could hover above it and look down, you'd see winding spiral arms curving gracefully outward from the center, like a pinwheel of light. But from your vantage point within one of those arms, the galaxy doesn't look like a pinwheel at all. It looks like a narrow band of haze stretched across the sky, the Milky Way proper. That band is your skyline, a reminder that you live inside something vast but only glimpse it edge on. Here's a fun tidbit. The Orion Spur, your galactic neighborhood, is dotted with some of the most famous stars and constellations. Orion, with its hunter's belt, Cygnus, the swan gliding across the sky, and the Summer Triangle, made of Vega, Deneb and Altair, all these familiar waypoints belong to your local district. They're your cosmic neighbors, the porch lights you can actually see in this otherwise quiet suburb. Scientists still debate whether life elsewhere in the galaxy might be shaped by its location the way ours has been. Would civilizations in the core experience a sky so dazzling that their mythology was saturated with constant brightness instead of emptiness? Would beings in the far outskirts, with barely any stars visible at all, even bother to look up? Your sparse but balanced address might be one of the reasons human curiosity bloomed at just the right pace, enough stars to inspire, enough darkness to leave room for imagination. And so, when you stare into the blackness between stars, remember that part of the reason it looks empty is because of where you live. You're not missing anything, you're simply seeing the sky from the quiet edge of a grand spiral. The emptiness is local. It's the suburban silence that made Earth possible, that gave you time to evolve, that gave you this very moment lying under blankets, thinking about galaxies. Your galactic address might not be glamorous, but it's home. And sometimes, the best views come not from the crowded heart of the city, but from the stillness of the outskirts, where you can see the glow from afar and still breathe freely in the dark. So far, you've been wandering the quiet neighborhoods of our Milky Way, but if you zoom out even farther, past the suburbs of our galaxy, past the spiraling arms and their bright stars, you reach an even starker reality, the space between galaxies. It is here that emptiness takes on its truest form. Astronomers call these places intergalactic voids, vast expanses of near nothing stretching across millions of light years. Imagine walking through a forest and suddenly stepping into a desert so immense that you can't even see the horizon. That's what a void is, a cosmic desert between the oases of galaxies. Your eyes can't even begin to sense these gaps. You see a handful of galaxies as faint smudges in the night sky, but you don't see the gulfs between them, the oceans of black that swallow up nearly everything. In reality, galaxies are islands, floating in a sea of dark, and like islands, they are clustered in archipelagos, separated by watery emptiness. Here's a curious tidbit. One of the largest known voids is called the Boötes Void. It spans about 330 million light-years across, so big that if the Milky Way were placed at its center, you wouldn't find another major galaxy within hundreds of millions of years of light travel. Astronomers sometimes call it the Great Nothing. To your eyes, it would look like a hole in the fabric of the universe. Scientists still debate exactly how these voids form. Some suggest they are the natural result of matter clustering along cosmic filaments, leaving empty pockets between them. Others think there may be hidden influences, like dark energy or subtle variations in the early universe shaping these vast deserts. The truth is, we don't fully know. The biggest structures in the cosmos remain as mysterious as the smallest. And yet, as empty as they seem, voids are not completely nothing. They contain the occasional lonely star, rogue galaxy, or wisp of gas drifting through the black. It's like finding a solitary cactus in the middle of a desert, proof that even emptiness can't resist the temptation to hold something. The void may be lonely, but it is never truly abandoned. So when you lie under your blanket and gaze upward, remember, the blackness you see is not just between stars. It extends between galaxies, yawning across distances so vast they dwarf even your wildest comparisons. The night sky is stitched with patches of nothing that stretch longer than the entire history of life on Earth. And yet, somehow, light still finds its way across. If you could somehow drift beyond the Milky Way and leave behind its spiral arms, you would quickly discover that galaxies, despite their staggering numbers, are not evenly spread out. They gather along invisible scaffolding called the cosmic web filaments of matter that stretch like threads across the universe. Between these threads are the voids, the black pockets so vast they seem endless. To your naked eye, the night sky shows only dots of stars, but in reality most of the cosmos is made of these gaps. Astronomers estimate that 80% of the observable universe's volume consists of voids. That means the universe is structured less like a crowded ballroom and more like a foamy sponge, dense clusters of galaxies connected along filaments, separated by bubbles of emptiness. You live on the wall of one of those bubbles, staring across the black ocean at other walls far away. Here's a curious tidbit. Even inside these voids, there may be faint glimmers of light too weak for telescopes to see. Theorists suggest that dwarf galaxies, too dim to register, could populate the darkness in tiny numbers. They'd be like fireflies lost in a canyon present, but invisible to all but the most sensitive instruments. The idea that even emptiness might hide hidden worlds adds a layer of intrigue to the blackness overhead. Scientists still argue whether voids are truly empty, or whether they contain thin streams of dark matter stretching like ghostly cobwebs. Dark matter doesn't shine or reflect, but it reveals itself through gravity, tugging at galaxies along the edges of voids. Simulations suggest that even the most desolate regions are threaded with this invisible substance, shaping the architecture of the cosmos. The debate continues: are voids deserts, or are they subtle landscapes we simply haven't learned to map? For you, lying under the stars, the thought of such voids adds a strange kind of calm. The spaces between galaxies are so immense, so lonely, that they make your own life feel small enough to breathe easily. Worries shrink against the canvas of nothingness. Bills, deadlines, unfinished tasks, they all feel microscopic compared to 300 million light-years of silence. The void is intimidating in theory, but soothing in practice. Picture yourself drifting there. No stars nearby, no planets, no heat, only the faint afterglow of the Big Bang echoing across black space. It's loneliness distilled, but also purity, the closest you could come to touching the fabric of nothing. For some, that emptiness might feel terrifying. But for you, wrapped in your blanket, it feels like the ultimate lullaby, silence stretched to infinity, inviting you to let go. The emptiness between galaxies is not just a backdrop, it's the dominant feature of the universe. When astronomers map the cosmos on the grandest scales, the picture that emerges looks like lacework or bubbles in foam. Galaxies cling to thin walls and filaments, while the interiors of those bubbles stretch for hundreds of millions of light-years with almost nothing inside. These are not small gaps. They are gulfs so wide that even light seems reluctant to cross them. Here's a quirky tidbit. If our Milky Way were dropped into the Boötes void, the great nothing mentioned earlier, it would take light half the age of the solar system, just to cross from our galaxy to the nearest big neighbour. You could shine the brightest cosmic flashlight and never see the reflection return. For all practical purposes, living in the centre of such a void would feel like being alone in the universe. Scientists still debate the emotional weight of this revelation. Some cosmologists embrace the voids as natural, even elegant, proof of how gravity sculpts matter into patterns. Others confess to a sense of vertigo when they think about them too much. If galaxies are rare islands, then voids are the endless seas, and like any sailor staring at the horizon, you can't help but feel both wonder and unease at their scale. But perhaps the voids are not so frightening when you think about what they provide. The gaps give galaxies room to grow, space for stars to evolve, and silence in which life can unfold without constant interruption. If the cosmos were packed wall to wall with galaxies, radiation would flood everything. The voids are not mistakes. They are part of the balance, the pauses in the universe's symphony. So the next time you tilt your head back and see the blackness between stars, remember that blackness continues, far beyond your galaxy, into voids so immense they defy comprehension. The darkness you see isn't the absence of beauty, it's the largest canvas the universe owns, and you, small as you are, get to lie beneath it, letting that infinite silence fold around you like the softest quilt. The night sky seems empty, not because it lacks content, but because the universe prefers subtlety. In its deepest spaces, it whispers instead of shouts, painting with black as carefully as it paints with light. The sky feels empty not only because of distance, faintness, or dust, but also because of something even grander. The universe itself is stretching. Space is not static. It is expanding, and has been ever since the Big Bang. And this expansion is not gentle, like bread rising in the oven. It's relentless, pushing galaxies farther and farther apart, so that over time many slip beyond the reach of your eyes forever. You've probably heard the analogy before. Galaxies are like raisins in a rising loaf of bread. As the dough expands, every raisin moves away from every other raisin. From the point of view of any single raisin, it looks like all the others are receding. The farther away a raisin is, the faster it seems to move. That's how your universe behaves. From Earth's perspective, distant galaxies are rushing away, carried by the growth of space itself. Here's a quirky tidbit. This discovery, called the Hubble expansion, wasn't fully accepted until the 20th century. Before that, many scientists thought the universe was static, unchanging, eternal. When Edwin Hubble measured the redshift of galaxies in the 1922nd, showing they were speeding away, it shocked the scientific world. Albert Einstein even admitted he had considered adding a cosmological constant to his equations to force the universe to stay still. Later, he called it his biggest blunder. Scientists still debate the fine details of this expansion. We know galaxies are receding, but why the rate is accelerating is still uncertain. The culprit seems to be dark energy, a mysterious force that makes up about 70% of the cosmos. Nobody knows what it truly is. Some think it's an intrinsic property of space itself. Others suspect it might hint at deeper physics we don't yet understand. The debate continues, even as the galaxies keep slipping away. For you, lying under the night sky, the implications are strangely bittersweet. Every year, more galaxies drift just a little farther from view. Some are already lost to you, carried beyond the cosmic horizon, the limit beyond which light will never reach Earth. Even if you had the most powerful telescope imaginable, those galaxies are gone from your sight forever, not because they vanished, but because the expanding universe has hidden them behind an ever-growing curtain. So the emptiness overhead isn't just the absence of light, it's a record of loss. Night by night, century by century, the sky becomes thinner. You are living in a rare cosmic era when the universe is still young enough that galaxies remain visible. Billions of years from now, future stargazers may look up and see nothing beyond their local group of galaxies, a private island in a sea of dark. But tonight, as you rest, you have the privilege of seeing a universe still open, still sprawling, still rich with galaxies slipping away but not yet gone. The emptiness you feel is the echo of motion, the great drift that defines the cosmos itself. Imagine pressing play on a time-lapse of the cosmos. Over billions of years, you'd see galaxies sliding apart, like lanterns drifting across a black lake, each moving farther from its neighbors. The clusters stay intact. The Milky Way and Andromeda, for example, are bound by gravity and will eventually merge, but the more distant galaxies keep slipping away, as though carried on a cosmic tide. To your eyes, the evidence of this drift shows up as redshift. Light from distant galaxies is stretched as space expands, its wavelengths pulled toward the red end of the spectrum. The farther away a galaxy is, the redder its light appears. That's why astronomers describe the universe as a kind of Doppler symphony. Just as a siren's pitch drops as it speeds past, light itself lowers its pitch when galaxies recede. What you see overhead isn't just color, it's motion frozen in starlight. Here's a curious tidbit. In 1998, astronomers discovered that this expansion isn't slowing down, as many expected it's accelerating. They noticed distant supernovae were dimmer than they should have been, proof that space is expanding faster and faster. This discovery earned a Nobel Prize and introduced a new cosmic villain, or savior, depending on your view, dark energy. The universe is not only growing, it's racing away, and no one knows why. Scientists still argue over the nature of this acceleration. Is dark energy truly constant, or does it change over time? Could it even reverse one day, collapsing the universe back into itself? The standard model says no acceleration will continue indefinitely, but theories like the Big Rip suggest a more dramatic future, where expansion eventually tears apart galaxies, stars, planets, even atoms. For now, the jury is still out, and cosmologists scribble equations while galaxies continue their quiet drift. For you, lying under your blanket, the concept is strangely peaceful. The night sky may look motionless, but everything is gliding apart at unimaginable speeds. You, the Earth, the Sun, all are passengers on a raft of galaxies sailing outward into darkness. The silence you hear is not stillness, it's expansion too slow for human senses. And the strangest part? This drift means that the universe you see tonight is temporary. Billions of years from now, distant galaxies will vanish from the record. Their light will never reach Earth again. Future astronomers might live under a false impression that their universe contains only the stars in their own small group, unaware that once, long ago, the sky was richer. You live in a privileged window of cosmic history, a moment when the universe reveals its scale before drawing the curtains. So the emptiness above you isn't just lack, it's motion, it's loss, and it's change. Every faint patch of black is a space where galaxies are quietly slipping away, taking their light with them, leaving you with only memory and imagination. Think about how strange this is. Every night sky you've ever known is a snapshot of a universe in motion. The stars seem fixed, constellations appear eternal, but on cosmic scales it's all temporary. Galaxies are not standing still for your benefit. They are gliding outward, each caught in the fabric of expanding space. What feels like permanence is really a fleeting arrangement, a moment in a long, slow dance. Here's a quirky tidbit. The Andromeda Galaxy, our nearest large neighbor, is the exception to the rule. It isn't slipping away, it's on a collision course with us. In about 4 billion years, the Milky Way and Andromeda will merge, forming a new galaxy sometimes nicknamed Milkomeda. Ironically, while almost every other galaxy drifts farther from view, the one we can already see most clearly is coming closer. The night sky of the far future will have fewer galaxies but one spectacular show. Scientists still debate what this expansion means for the ultimate fate of the universe. Will galaxies keep receding forever, leaving each local cluster isolated in its own bubble of darkness? Or will dark energy's behavior shift, changing the ending? Some models predict eternal expansion, others whisper about collapse. A few dream of cyclical universes, where expansion is only half the story followed by contraction and rebirth. For now, the expansion is all you know, and all you need to know is that it makes the heavens appear emptier with every passing eon. For you, lying beneath your blanket, the thought carries both melancholy and comfort. Yes, galaxies are slipping away, but you are alive during the golden age of visibility, when the cosmos is still generous with its secrets. Billions of years from now, others may look up and see only darkness. But you, tonight, can still witness the faint glow of galaxies billions of light years away, still feel the quiet thrill of being part of a universe in bloom rather than decline. So when you tilt your head back and see the gaps between stars, imagine them not as static voids but as pathways, roads, along which galaxies are gliding into the distance. The emptiness isn't permanent, it's movement, it's expansion, it's the gentle exhale of the cosmos itself. And you, small as you are here to notice it, to rest under it, to let its vast drift rock you towards sleep. The great emptiness of the sky is not only a trick of biology or dust, it is the universe breathing, stretching, and slipping silently out of reach. And somehow, that makes the darkness above you feel more alive. When you look into the night sky, it feels infinite, as if your gaze could stretch forever. But in reality, your view is fenced in. The boundary isn't made of walls or clouds, but of time itself. Light has a speed limit about 300,000 kilometers per second, and even at that blistering pace, it can only travel so far in the lifetime of the universe. That means there's a cosmic horizon, a line beyond which you will never see no matter how powerful your telescope. Astronomers call this the observable universe. It's like standing on the shore of a vast ocean. You can see the horizon, but you know the sea continues far beyond it. The observable universe is your horizon, stretching about 46 billion light-years in every direction. That number may surprise you, since the universe itself is only 13.8 billion years old. The reason is that while light was travelling, space itself was expanding, carrying galaxies farther away even as their light made its journey. So your horizon is not a simple circle of age, it's a complicated weave of distance, time, and cosmic growth. Here's a quirky tidbit. When you look up at the night sky, you're not just seeing across space, you're seeing back in time. A star 100 light-years away shows you a century-old snapshot. A galaxy 1 billion light-years away shows you what it looked like when multicellular life was just beginning on Earth. The farther out you look, the younger the universe becomes. In the deepest images, like those from the James Webb Space Telescope, astronomers are peering at galaxies so far away, their light began its journey when the cosmos was only a few 100 million years old. It's like flipping through a photo album where every page takes you further back in history. Scientists still debate what lies beyond this observable horizon. Some believe the universe is infinite, continuing endlessly into regions you'll never access. Others think it might be finite but unbounded, like the surface of a sphere. You could travel forever without encountering an edge, but the total volume is still limited. And then there are theories of multiverses, suggesting our observable bubble is just one of countless cosmic pockets. No matter the model, the horizon is an iron curtain, you cannot peek past it, and that ignorance is permanent. For you, lying under the stars, the horizon is both humbling and strangely comforting. You know the universe is larger than you'll ever see, but you also know your little window is enough. The billions of galaxies within reach are already more than your mind can hold. The horizon doesn't confine you, it spares you, editing infinity down to something your imagination can handle. So the emptiness overhead is partly a trick of scale. You are gazing at a fraction of the universe, cropped by light's limits. Beyond the darkness you see lies more, always more, but hidden behind the cosmic fence. The night is infinite in theory, but bounded in practice. Picture yourself standing on a beach at night, the ocean stretching endlessly into darkness. You know the water doesn't end at the horizon, but your eyes insist that it does. The universe works the same way. Your horizon is not the edge of existence, it's just the edge of what light has had time to deliver. Beyond it, galaxies continue, silent and unseen, like waves you'll never hear crash. The concept can feel slippery, almost paradoxical. The universe is 13.8 billion years old, so shouldn't your horizon be 13.8 billion light years away? Not quite. While light was crossing the cosmos, space itself was stretching, pulling its source farther and farther from you. That's why the observable radius is closer to 46 billion light-years. You're seeing light that left when galaxies were young, but those same galaxies now sit far beyond where their photons began. You're glimpsing the past of objects that no longer occupy the positions where you see them. It's like watching fireworks long after the sparks have faded, their light still crawling toward you. Here's a curious tidbit. When astronomers measure the faint, cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, They are literally staring at the horizon itself. It's the oldest light you can ever hope to see, released when the universe was about 380,000 years old. Before that, the cosmos was too hot and dense for light to travel freely. In a sense, your horizon is not just spatial but temporal. It marks the moment the universe became transparent. Beyond it lies only guesswork, a time before photons could escape. Scientists still debate what it means to live with such a limit. Some argue the horizon makes the universe feel smaller, because you'll never know what's beyond. Others say it makes the universe feel larger, because you can't rule out infinite possibilities. What if there are galaxies structured differently from ours, hidden just beyond reach? What if entire cosmic patterns exist that you'll never detect? The horizon teases you with a sense of mystery, dangling the idea that reality extends forever, but keeping it wrapped in black. And the strangest part is this: the horizon itself changes. With every passing second, more light arrives, more galaxies drift into visibility. The observable universe is like a balloon, inflating as you wait. You'll never see beyond the horizon, but you can see more of it over time. New photons stream in like letters delivered late, telling you about corners of the cosmos you couldn't see before. Even in stillness, the sky is growing, revealing itself layer by layer. So when you look up at the night and feel the emptiness pressing down, remember that darkness isn't blank. It's the veil of a horizon, the edge of your knowledge, the fence of light's long journey. You're not staring at nothing, you're staring at the limit of time itself. The idea of a cosmic horizon can feel like a paradox wrapped in silence. On the one hand, it sets a firm limit. You will never see past it, never know what lies beyond. On the other hand, it also reassures you that mystery will always remain. The universe, in a sense, protects itself from being completely understood, leaving room for awe. Think of it like reading a favourite book where the last chapter has been torn out. You know the story continues, but you can't peek at the ending. Some readers would be frustrated, others would savour the open-endedness, filling the gap with imagination. The night sky works the same way. The observable universe is the part of the book you've been given, and the rest is left to your dreams. Here's a quirky tidbit. If you could somehow teleport to the edge of your observable universe, your horizon wouldn't be the same as it is from Earth. You'd gain a whole new bubble of visibility, overlapping with yours, but extending into regions you can't see from here. Every vantage point in the cosmos has its own horizon, like billions of overlapping circles, each showing a unique patch of reality. That means the universe is even richer than any single observer can know. You're holding one lantern among countless others, each illuminating a different corner of the dark. Scientists still debate what the horizon implies about humanity's place in the cosmos. Some argue it humbles us. We're trapped inside a finite bubble, unable to step outside. Others see it as empowering. Despite our smallness, we've managed to chart that bubble, measure its size, and glimpse its earliest light. Both views carry truth. You're tiny, yes, but you're also capable of astonishing reach, able to trace photons back almost to the birth of time itself. For you, lying beneath the stars, the horizon becomes less a barrier and more a lullaby. You know the cosmos stretches farther than you'll ever see, but that's not a loss. It's an invitation. The dark overhead isn't empty. It's filled with possibility, with unseen galaxies, with unknown shapes and stories. It's a reminder that some mysteries are too vast to solve, and that's exactly what makes them beautiful. So when the night feels still, remember, your sky is framed by the observable horizon, a soft fence built of light and time. Beyond it lies more than you can know, but within it lies enough to keep you wondering for a lifetime. The emptiness you see is really the edge of sight itself, the universe whispering, "This much is yours, and the rest is a dream." At this point, you may be wondering, if the universe is so vast, filled with stars and galaxies stretching in every direction, why isn't the night sky completely ablaze with light? Shouldn't every tiny patch of black be filled with the glow of countless suns? This is the essence of Olber's paradox, a question that haunted astronomers for centuries. If the universe is infinite and eternal, the night sky should be bright everywhere, not dark. So why does it look the way it does? Imagine walking into a forest. If the forest is truly endless, no matter where you look, your line of sight should eventually hit a tree. The same logic applies to the universe. In an infinite sea of stars, Every line of sight should end at a star. The sky should glow like the surface of the Sunday, and yet it doesn't. Instead, it offers you a patchwork of faint pinpricks scattered across deep black. Here's a quirky tidbit. The question was first clearly posed by the German astronomer Heinrich Wilhelm Olbers in 1823, though thinkers as far back as Kepler had puzzled over it. Olbers suggested that perhaps interstellar dust absorbed the light, but that explanation faltered, because over time, dust would heat up and eventually radiate the absorbed light back out, still leaving the sky bright. The paradox remained: if infinity surrounds you, why do you see so much emptiness? Scientists now know the solution comes from three key facts. The universe is not eternal, it is not static, and its light has limits. First, the cosmos has a finite age, about 13.8 billion years. That means light from stars farther than that hasn't had time to reach you. Second, the universe is expanding, stretching light into faintness, shifting it into wavelengths your eyes can't see. And third, many stars are hidden behind dust, gas, or simply too dim to register. Together, these truths dissolve the paradox, turning the dark sky from a contradiction into a revelation. So when you look up and see darkness, you're not seeing failure, you're seeing evidence. Evidence that the universe has a beginning. Evidence that it grows and evolves. Evidence that your eyes are tuned only to a narrow slice of light. The night's emptiness is not a puzzle to be feared, but a message to be read. And for you, lying under your blanket, that message feels soothing. The silence of the sky is not absence, it's history written in black. Every star you do not see tells you that the universe is young, dynamic, and far stranger than the infinite blaze Olbers imagined. Picture the paradox more vividly. If the universe were infinite, eternal, and filled evenly with stars, then every point in the sky should be as bright as the sun's surface. The darkness of night would be impossible, Earth would live under an unending noon. Yet here you are, wrapped in blankets, staring into calm, comforting blackness. What feels ordinary to you, the dark sky, was, for centuries, a profound scientific riddle. One elegant way to phrase Olbers's paradox is this: why is the night dark? It sounds like the simplest question a child might ask, yet answering it required humanity to rethink the very nature of the universe. Here's a curious tidbit. Even Edgar Allan Poe, in 1848, tried his hand at the puzzle. In a prose poem called Eureka, he suggested that the universe must be finite in age, and that light from distant stars hadn't had time to reach us. Poe wasn't a scientist, but his intuition foreshadowed modern cosmology. Sometimes, poets stumble into truths before equations catch up. Scientists still discuss Olbers' paradox not because it's unsolved, but because its solution reveals so much about the cosmos. The darkness proves that the universe had a beginning, that it's not infinitely old. If it were, the sky would indeed blaze. The darkness also proves that space is expanding. Galaxies recede, and their light is stretched beyond the visible spectrum into infrared and microwave wavelengths. In fact, much of the missing light is still here, but shifted into forms invisible to your eyes. What looks like black sky is, in reality, glowing faintly with stretched-out starlight, humming quietly as the cosmic microwave background. For you, lying under the stars, this realization transforms emptiness into richness. The dark isn't a void, it's a canvas painted in wavelengths you cannot see. Your eyes offer one version of the sky, but radio telescopes, infrared detectors and microwave antennas reveal another, filled with hidden brightness. The universe is glowing all the time, just not in ways your biology can register. And that is the gift of the paradox. The question, why is the night dark, turns into a doorway that leads to the Big Bang, to cosmic expansion, to the discovery that you live in a dynamic universe. What once seemed like a hole in understanding has become proof of how much there is to know. So the next time you gaze into the black, think of it not as absence, but as a secret spectrum colours beyond your reach, truths tucked into wavelengths your eyes cannot catch. The sky is not dark, it's simply singing in a register you can't hear. The beauty of Olbers' paradox is that what seems obvious, the night is dark, becomes profound when you try to explain it. You've grown up under that darkness, never questioning it much, because it feels so natural. But for centuries, It was a thorn in the side of astronomy, a riddle whispering that the universe might not be what people assumed. Here's a quirky tidbit. The paradox even shows up in unexpected ways today. Street lamps in cities reflect off dust and haze, producing a faint sky glow that drowns out the stars. In a sense, it creates a miniature version of Olbers's imagined blazing universe. Too much light, no darkness. Astronomers fight against this modern paradox with dark sky preserves, places where the natural black returns and the riddle of night can still be contemplated. Scientists still debate how best to teach the lesson of Olber's paradox, because it carries so many layers. It's not just about why the night is dark, it's about why the universe had to begin, why it evolves, and why your senses are limited. It's about humility. You look up and see emptiness, but behind that emptiness lies a story of time, expansion, and hidden light. And there's another twist. The paradox assumes the universe goes on forever in both time and space. But what if space itself is finite? What if the cosmos is curved, looping back on itself? In that case, the paradox would dissolve in yet another way. Every solution deepens the mystery, reminding you that the dark above is not simple. It's layered, nuanced, alive with unanswered questions. For you, lying under the covers, the resolution of Olber's paradox is strangely soothing. The darkness is not a problem, it's a promise. A promise that the universe is young, still unfolding, still whispering its secrets across the black. A promise that light is finite, and that your little patch of sky is precious precisely because it is not ablaze. So the next time you tilt your head back, remember, the night isn't dark because stars are missing. It's dark because the cosmos is dynamic. Every patch of black is evidence of a beginning, proof of expansion, and a reminder that your vision touches only a small sliver of reality. The paradox doesn't rob you of wonder, it multiplies it, turning the silence of night into testimony of cosmic truth. The emptiness above is not empty at all, it's the echo of time itself, painted in black, inviting you to dream beneath it. The night sky looks empty not only because your eyes miss faint light or because galaxies drift away, it also hides companions' objects so strange and quiet that they don't shine at all. Black holes, dead stars, collapsed remnants, these are your invisible neighbours, drifting through the galaxy like ghosts in the dark. You never see them directly, yet they surround you. Take black holes, for instance. They are formed when massive stars exhaust their fuel and collapse under their own gravity. The collapse is so extreme that not even light can escape. By definition, black holes are invisible. Their presence is betrayed only when they pull on nearby stars or twist space-time in detectable ways. You could have one drifting thousands of light years away, completely hidden until its gravity whispers across the cosmos. Here's a curious tidbit. Scientists estimate there could be 100 million black holes in the Milky Way alone. That means, while you gaze up and see only scattered stars, you're actually surrounded by silent abysses. They don't glow, they don't twinkle, but they are part of the fabric of your neighbourhood. The night sky is emptier than it looks because many of its residents refuse to show themselves. And black holes aren't the only unseen companions. Dead stars lurk as well. White dwarfs, the cores of sun-like stars that have burned out, shine faintly, cooling slowly over billions of years. Neutron stars, even stranger, are the ultra-dense remnants of supernovae, city-sized spheres with the mass of the Sunday. Some blink as pulsars, lighthouses of radio waves, but many are dark, quiet, and nearly impossible to detect. Scientists still debate just how many of these stellar corpses populate the galaxy. Are there vast populations of black dwarfs, the final cooled state of white dwarfs that remain invisible because the universe isn't old enough for them to exist yet? If so, one day the galaxy may be filled with dead stars too faint to see. The night sky would look emptier still, yet it would actually be more crowded with hidden relics. For you, lying under your blanket, the thought is eerie but oddly comforting. The darkness above you isn't vacant. It's full of neighbours you'll never meet, companions travelling silently alongside the stars. They don't announce themselves with brightness, but their presence is real. The emptiness you see is populated by shadows, and somehow, knowing that makes the night feel less lonely. The thought of invisible neighbours may feel eerie at first, but in many ways, they're part of the same cosmic family as the stars you can see. Every shining star you admire tonight is destined to leave behind one of these remnants, white dwarf, neutron star, or black hole. The visible sky is just the front half of a cycle. The dark half is always waiting, hidden in the wings. Take our own Sunday. One day, billions of years from now, it will swell into a red giant, shed its outer layers, and leave behind a glowing white dwarf. That ember will fade slowly, cooling across unimaginable spans of time until it becomes a black dwarf, dark, cold, and invisible. Your brightest companion will become one of those silent ghosts that now haunt other corners of the sky. Here's a quirky tidbit. Even planets can become invisible neighbours of a sort. Astronomers suspect that billions of rogue planets drift through interstellar space, thrown out of their systems long ago. They don't orbit stars, they don't shine, and they wander the void like lonely travellers. Some estimates suggest there may be more rogue planets in the galaxy than stars themselves. In other words, the darkness above may be filled with wandering worlds, unseen but countless. Scientists still debate how these hidden populations shape the galaxy's future. Do black holes act like anchors, influencing the orbits of nearby stars? Do swarms of faint remnants make up part of the galaxy's missing mass? Could rogue planets even host exotic forms of life, warmed not by starlight but by internal heat? Each invisible neighbour sparks new questions, many of which may never be fully answered. But for you, lying quietly beneath your blanket, these shadows are less threatening than they are comforting. They remind you that the emptiness you see is misleading. The dark patches overhead are full of presence, of objects that live in silence rather than brightness. The night sky is not an empty stage. It is crowded with actors who prefer to work in the dark. And perhaps that's why the sky feels so peaceful. The visible stars are just the fireworks, the loud performers. But behind them, an entire chorus of quiet companions drifts unseen, holding the galaxy together, whispering in gravity rather than light. You may never see them, but they are part of your neighbourhood, shaping your world all the same. So the next time you look up and feel the dark pressing in, remember that darkness is alive with invisible neighbours. Black holes, dead stars, wandering planets, all of them unseen companions. The sky may look empty, but it is, in truth, full to the brim. When you glance at the sky, you're really only seeing the show-offs, the bright young stars, the glowing giants, the vibrant nebulae. But in truth, most of your galactic neighbourhood is filled with relics, stellar remnants that shine too faintly or not at all. They're like old houses with the lights turned off, blending into the night. Take white dwarfs, for example. These are the leftover cores of stars like your sun, compressed into objects no larger than Earth but holding nearly the same mass as their parent star. A teaspoon of white dwarf matter would weigh tons on Earth. They glow faintly at first, then cool slowly over billions of years. Eventually they'll fade into black dwarfs, completely invisible corpses of stars. The catch? The universe isn't old enough for any black dwarfs to exist yet. Every white dwarf you see is still glowing faintly, but one day, the cosmos will be littered with cold, dark husks. Here's a curious tidbit. Some white dwarfs actually crystallize as they cool. That means somewhere out there, stars have literally turned into giant diamonds floating in space. Astronomers believe the largest diamond in the galaxy is a crystallized white dwarf core about 10 billion trillion carats. It's nicknamed Lucy, after the Beatles' song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Your sky hides not only darkness but cosmic jewels. Then there are neutron stars far stranger. Born from the violent explosions of massive stars, they cram more mass than the sun into a sphere just 20 kilometers across. Their gravity is so intense that atoms collapse, and matter exists in forms you can't even imagine. Some neutron stars spin rapidly, sending out radio pulses like lighthouses. These pulsars can be detected with radio telescopes, but many neutron stars are quiet, dark, and nearly invisible. You could drift past one without ever knowing unless you felt its crushing pull. And then, of course, the black holes, the ultimate invisible neighbours. They cannot be seen directly, but they reveal themselves through gravity's fingerprints. When two black holes collide, they ripple space-time itself, sending out gravitational waves that detectors on Earth can sense. It's like listening to the faint tremors of footsteps from unseen giants. In recent years, humanity has finally learned to hear these events, confirming that black holes aren't just theory, they're everywhere. Scientists still debate how many of these unseen objects roam near us. Are there small, quiet black holes drifting through interstellar space, unbound to any star, impossible to detect unless they cross paths with us? Some estimates suggest there could be thousands in our immediate galactic vicinity, hidden in the dark. The sky looks empty because the brightest voices drown out the silent ones. For you, lying under your blanket, it changes the way you imagine the night. That soft black canvas isn't just sprinkled with stars, it's crowded with shadows. Ghost suns, frozen diamonds, collapsed hearts of giants, and the invisible mouths of space-time itself all float above you. You don't see them, but they're there, making your quiet suburb of the Milky Way far less lonely than it appears. So far, your invisible neighbours have been the corpses of stars and the hungry mouths of black holes. But the universe hides something stranger still, things you cannot see not because they are small or faint, but because they are fundamentally invisible. These are the exotic shadows, dark matter and dark energy. They don't shine, they don't glow, they don't emit or reflect light in any way, yet they make up most of the cosmos. Imagine this unsettling ratio. All the stars, planets, gas, and dust. The entire visible universe accounts for only about 5% of reality. The other 95% belongs to the unseen. About 27% is dark matter, and roughly 68% is dark energy. You are living in a universe where the things you can't see outweigh the things you can by a staggering margin. The night sky looks empty because its true contents are hidden in these shadows. Here's a quirky tidbit. Dark matter was first suspected because galaxies spin too fast. In the 1972nd, astronomer Vera Rubin measured the rotation of spiral galaxies and found that the outer stars were moving much faster than visible mass could account for. Something unseen had to be adding gravity, holding the galaxies together like invisible glue. That something was named dark matter, not because we know what it is, but precisely because we don't. Scientists still argue passionately over what dark matter actually is. Some theories suggest it's made of exotic particles that rarely interact with normal matter, slipping through planets and people like ghosts. Others propose modifications to gravity itself, that maybe our equations are incomplete, and what we call dark matter is really a flaw in our understanding. Decades of searching with particle detectors and telescopes have yielded clues, but no final answer. The shadow remains stubborn. And then there's dark energy, an even deeper mystery. While dark matter pulls galaxies together, dark energy pushes them apart. It's the force behind the accelerating expansion of the universe, discovered in 1998. If dark matter is the invisible scaffolding of the cosmos, dark energy is the invisible breath that makes the scaffolding drift apart. Together, they choreograph the largest structures in existence, even though neither can be seen. For you, lying under your blanket, the thought is dizzying. The stars you admire, the galaxies you imagine, the nebulae that glow in photographs, all of it is only the surface frosting of a much larger cake. The true universe is dark, not because it's empty, but because it's filled with things your senses can't perceive. The emptiness above isn't absence, it's presence in disguise. If you could peel back the visible stars and gas from the Milky Way, what would remain is an invisible skeleton of dark matter. Galaxies, in fact, are thought to sit inside massive halos of this unseen substance. Without dark matter, the stars would spin apart like sparks flung from a firework. The fact that galaxies hold together at all is evidence of its grip. To imagine this, think of a merry-go-round at a playground. If the children riding on the edge spin too fast, they should fly off. Galaxies are like that. Stars orbit far faster than the visible mass allows. Something unseen, the dark matter halo, is the invisible hand holding the ride together. Here's a curious tidbit. Simulations of the universe show that dark matter forms the cosmic web, vast filaments stretching hundreds of millions of light years. Visible galaxies gather along these filaments like dewdrops on strands of spider silk. When astronomers map galaxy positions, they find patterns eerily similar to the models, suggesting dark matter really is the scaffolding of the cosmos. What you see, the galaxies, are just the lanterns strung along invisible threads. Scientists still debate what dark matter could be. Candidates include WIMPs, weakly interacting massive particles, axions, hypothetical ultralight particles, or even primordial black holes left over from the Big Bang. Detectors buried deep underground, shielded from ordinary radiation, wait for the faintest interactions. So far, the shadows have stayed silent. It's as if the universe is teasing, dangling the solution just out of reach. And then there's dark energy, the counterpoint. While dark matter pulls, dark energy pushes. It accounts for the majority of cosmic content, yet is understood least of all. Discovered through distant supernovae appearing dimmer than expected, dark energy seems to be a property of space itself, like a pressure that grows stronger as the universe expands. Instead of slowing down, expansion accelerates, galaxies fleeing each other faster with every passing moment. Some scientists compare dark energy to a strange kind of anti-gravity. Others wonder if it's an illusion, a placeholder for new physics waiting to be discovered. Is it constant? Does it vary over time? Could it change and rewrite the universe's fate? The debate is fierce, and the data is frustratingly delicate. For you, lying under the stars, these shadows redefine emptiness. What feels like black gaps overhead are actually the strongest forces in existence. Hidden mass-binding galaxies, hidden energy stretching space itself. You can't see them, but you're swimming in their influence every second. Even your own body, drifting with Earth around the sun, is tugged and stretched by forces you'll never witness directly. The night's quiet isn't quiet at all. It's a stage where invisible players hold the universe together, pulling strings from behind the curtain. The strangest thing about dark matter and dark energy is how central they are to the story of the cosmos, even though we've never seen them directly. They are like the main characters in a play who never step on stage, only their influence is felt. Every galaxy, every cluster, every patch of emptiness is shaped by them. Without dark matter, galaxies wouldn't form. Without dark energy, the expansion of space would follow an entirely different script. You wouldn't be here at all. Here's a quirky tidbit. Although we call it dark matter, it isn't necessarily dark in the spooky sense. A better word might be transparent. It doesn't interact with light, but it does with gravity. In fact, when astronomers look at colliding galaxy clusters, they can watch dark matter reveal itself indirectly. One famous example is the Bullet Cluster, two clusters of galaxies that slammed together. The visible gas slowed and clumped, but gravitational mapping showed most of the mass had sailed right through, as if ghosts passed through walls. That invisible mass was dark matter, betraying itself only through gravity's tug. Scientists still debate whether dark matter and dark energy are truly separate entities, or if they're two sides of a deeper mystery. Could a single hidden force explain both the pull and the push? Or are we glimpsing cracks in our understanding of physics itself? Some dream that solving these puzzles will lead to a new Einstein, a revolution in knowledge. Others accept that the shadows may never yield their names. But for you, lying quietly under the night sky, the lesson is simpler. The darkness you see is not an absence of content. It's the stage where the greatest forces play their quiet game. Your eyes report emptiness, but the truth is that unseen hands are weaving galaxies into webs and stretching space wider with every breath. And maybe that's why the night feels so calming. The most powerful players in the universe are invisible, working in silence, asking nothing of you. The stars are the decorations, the shadows are the structure. You don't have to solve the puzzle to rest beneath it. It's enough to know that what looks empty is actually full beyond comprehension. So the next time you glance at the sky and sigh at its blankness, smile. The black isn't void, it's presence. Dark matter, dark energy, the exotic shadows of creation itself, all surrounding you like a quilt stitched from the unseen. The night may look empty, but it is heavy with secrets, and that weight is what makes it beautiful. When you gaze up at the night sky, you're not just looking across space, you're looking across time. And time, like a quiet artist, edits the heavens. Stars are born, they blaze, and then they die. Their light fades, their brilliance vanishes, and what remains is emptiness. The darkness you see tonight is not only the result of distance or faintness, it's the work of time's cosmic eraser. Every star has a lifespan. Some live for billions of years, others only for a few million, but none live forever. When they die, their light ceases, and the space they once brightened grows dark again. Multiply that by the countless stars across the galaxy, and you begin to see why the universe feels patchy and bare. It isn't just that stars are far away, it's that many are gone, erased from the visible stage. Here's a curious tidbit. The faintest stars visible to your eyes might already be dead. Their light has taken hundreds or even thousands of years to arrive. By the time those photons finish their long journey, the star could have collapsed, exploded, or faded out entirely. You're staring at ghost light from stars that no longer exist. In a sense, the night sky is a graveyard of memories, written in photons. Scientists still debate how the slow erasure of stars will shape the far future of the universe. Will galaxies gradually dim into invisibility, leaving only remnants like white dwarfs, neutron stars, and black holes? Or will new stars continue to form indefinitely, replacing the dead with the living? Most models suggest star formation will eventually slow, and the cosmos will drift toward darkness. In the far future, the night sky may be even emptier than it is today, not because stars are missing, but because their light has been erased by time. For you, lying under your blanket, that thought is not frightening but strangely calming. The sky is alive tonight with stories from the past, and even its silences are full of meaning. The darkness above isn't just a void, it's a reminder that time shapes everything, even the stars. The emptiness you see is simply the universe telling you that nothing lasts forever, and that's part of its beauty. Every star you see tonight is a clock, ticking steadily toward its end. The most massive stars live fast and die young, burning through their fuel in just a few million years before exploding as brilliant supernovae. Their deaths briefly light up the galaxy, outshining billions of other stars, only to vanish into silence, leaving behind neutron stars or black holes. The smaller stars, like red dwarfs, burn more slowly, living for trillions of years, but they too will eventually fade. Time is patient, and in the end, every flame gutters out. If you could speed up cosmic time, you would watch the sky flicker and dim, constellations dissolving as their stars wink out. Orion's belt would lose its jewels, the Big Dipper would scatter, the Milky Way itself would fade into a thin whisper. The familiar patterns that guided sailors, inspired poets, and comforted dreamers would vanish under the slow eraser of time. Here's a curious tidbit. Our own sun is already halfway through its life. About 5 billion years from now, it will swell into a red giant, engulf Mercury and Venus, perhaps even Earth, before shedding its outer layers and leaving behind a glowing white dwarf. For a brief period, the remains of the sun will illuminate a nebula of gas, a cosmic ghost, but eventually, even that will disperse into darkness. The sky that nurtured you will become emptier still. Scientists still debate how far this process will go. In the unimaginably distant future, long after the last star dies, the universe will enter what cosmologists call the degenerate era. Galaxies will no longer shine, black holes will dominate, and even they will eventually evaporate through Hawking radiation. Time itself becomes the eraser, scrubbing away every source of light until the cosmos rests in quiet obscurity. Some call this the heat death of the universe, a final equilibrium where nothing happens anymore. Others argue that quantum effects or new physics might intervene, offering twists we can't yet imagine. But for you, resting here tonight, that ultimate fate is not a threat, it is simply perspective. The night feels empty because you're catching it mid-process. Stars are constantly dying, constellations constantly shifting, light constantly fading. The sky you see is temporary, but that impermanence makes it precious. Each star you glimpse is a fleeting performance, and you are lucky enough to be in the audience while the lights are still on. So when you see the darkness between stars, know that part of it is the silence left behind by those who have burned out. Time's eraser is always moving, but its work is not cruel. It is what allows the universe to tell its story, chapter by chapter, with endings as necessary as beginnings. The strange thing about time's eraser is that it works in layers. Some stars vanish quickly, torn apart in dramatic explosions, while others fade so gradually that their disappearance goes unnoticed. Your eyes can't tell which stars are nearing their ends and which are newborn. To you, they all sparkle equally, though each carries its own clock within. The night sky is both a nursery and a cemetery, but the deaths often outnumber the births, slowly tipping the balance towards silence. Think about how much of the sky is already gone. The light you see from Betelgeuse, for instance, began its journey more than 600 years ago. If the star has exploded since then, and many astronomers believe it could be near that fate, you wouldn't know yet. Its death might already be written in the sky, just not delivered to your eyes. Every glance at the stars is a conversation with ghosts. Here's a quirky tidbit. Astronomers sometimes talk about red-shifted fossils. As stars fade and galaxies drift away, their light stretches into wavelengths too long for human eyes. It's still there, but transformed into infrared or radio signals. The universe doesn't erase completely, it recycles, hiding old brilliance in forms you can't perceive without machines. Somewhere, all that lost light hums quietly and registers beyond your senses. Scientists still debate how long the universe's light era will last. Some suggest new stars will keep forming for trillions of years, fed by clouds of gas and dust. Others argue that most of the fuel is already being used up, and the great stellar symphony will end sooner than expected. What's certain is that time will eventually dim even the brightest galaxies into whispers. The cosmos is generous now, but generosity has its limits. And yet, for you tonight, that knowledge adds to the peace. You're alive in a luminous age, when the sky still glitters with billions of suns, when galaxies still sparkle across the dark. One day, far beyond your lifetime, the eraser will sweep wider, and the heavens will look emptier still. But you are here for this moment, for a night when the stars are still plenty, still telling stories, still offering their light before time claims it. So when you lie back and let your eyes wander across the quiet canvas, remember that you are watching a temporary masterpiece. The darkness is not failure, it's the brush of time, shaping and reshaping the heavens. Every blank patch is both a loss and a promise that nothing lasts, and that makes everything you see tonight infinitely precious. The emptiness overhead is deepened by time, but softened by perspective. The stars will fade, but their memory lingers in your gaze. And as you drift towards sleep, the thought is not sad but soothing. The universe is erasing itself slowly, gently, turning brilliance into silence and giving you the quiet sky that cradles you tonight. Every time you look at the night sky, you're peering through a temporary window. The constellations above you may feel eternal, but they are not. They are shifting, fragile, and fleeting. The stars you trace into shapes tonight will not shine in the same patterns forever. For future eyes millions of years from now, the sky will look utterly different, emptier in some ways, rearranged in others. Constellations are illusions after all. The stars that make up Orion's belt, the Big Dipper, or the Southern Cross only appear grouped together because of your vantage point. In truth, they lie at vastly different distances, scattered through space like beads on separate strings. Over time, as stars drift along their orbits around the galaxy, these familiar alignments dissolve. The Hunter's belt will break, the Dipper's handle will twist, patterns that guided sailors and storytellers will unravel like stitches coming loose. Here's a curious tidbit. Astronomers can actually simulate the night sky tens of thousands of years into the future. They've mapped the proper motions of stars, how they move across the sky, and shown that in 50,000 years, the Big Dipper will be unrecognizable. In 1,000,000 years, Orion will be gone, its shape erased. The constellations you know are less like monuments and more like fireworks' brief arrangements, dazzling for a moment before fading. Scientists still debate what that means for the cultures of the far future. Will new constellations be invented, fresh myths spun from rearranged dots, or will the sky grow so sparse that it no longer invites the same imagination? Already, light pollution has stolen much of the visible sky from modern humanity. In many cities, you see fewer than a few dozen stars. For children growing up beneath that dimness, the ancient stories of constellations must sound like exaggerations. If the stars themselves fade, the stories may fade too. For you, lying under your blanket tonight, the thought is bittersweet. The stars feel like companions, permanent and steady. But in truth, they are only visitors, passing through your lifetime's small window. The constellations exist for you now, but not forever. And that makes tonight's view precious, a fleeting gift from the cosmos. The more you think about it, the more the night sky resembles a theatre performance. The stars are actors, stepping into the spotlight for a time, delivering their roles, and then exiting the stage. You're in the audience for one particular act, one fleeting moment in a play that spans billions of years. What you see tonight is not the real sky, it's your sky, shaped by the timing of your existence. Take Orion, one of the most recognizable constellations. Already some of its brightest stars are nearing the end of their lives. Betelgeuse could explode within the next 100,000 years, a blink in cosmic terms. When that happens, Orion will lose its red shoulder, and the familiar hunter will forever change. For you, Orion is eternal. For future eyes, he will be incomplete, a myth rewritten. Here's a quirky tidbit. If humanity survives into deep time, long after the Milky Way merges with Andromeda, the sky will contain entirely new constellations, stitched together from unfamiliar stars. What feels like loss to you will feel like creation to them. They will look up and name new hunters, new animals, new gods in the sky. Every generation inherits a different script, because the actors keep changing. Scientists still wonder whether this fleeting window explains why human culture invested so heavily in the stars. You lived under a sky, rich enough to inspire myths, but not so crowded as to overwhelm imagination. Perhaps in 10 trillion years, when the lights have faded, no beings will bother to invent stories of constellations. Your window may be unique not only in physics but in meaning, the only time when the cosmos offered just the right balance for storytelling. For you, lying under your blanket, that realization makes the darkness tender. Yes, the stars will vanish, yes, the constellations will unravel, but you are here now, catching the show at its brightest. Your fleeting window is not a loss, it's a gift, a front row seat to the sky's most generous act. So when you close your eyes and let sleep carry you, remember, tonight's stars are yours alone. Future eyes may never see them this way. The emptiness above is only temporary, time's gentle reminder that beauty is precious because it doesn't last. Think about it this way. You are alive during what astronomers sometimes call the cosmic golden hour. The universe is still young enough that stars blaze brightly, galaxies are visible, and constellations draw clear shapes in the sky. But it's also old enough that heavy elements exist: carbon, oxygen, iron, the building blocks of planets and people. It's a balance point, a brief moment when the sky is both full of lights and full of meaning. Fast forward billions of years, and the view will change dramatically. Expansion will push galaxies beyond the observable horizon. Stars will fade or explode, their remnants cooling into invisible husks. Even the Milky Way itself will transform, merging with Andromeda and reshaping into a new, unfamiliar galaxy. The constellations you know so well, Orion, the Hunter, Cassiopeia's Throne, the Swan of Cygnus, will be erased by time. Future eyes, if they exist, may look up and see only a few lonely stars in an otherwise black canvas. Here's a curious tidbit. Even within our human history, the sky has already changed. Ancient Egyptian records mention stars that no longer shine like Sirius's companion stars, visible then, but now too faint without telescopes. The stories written in the heavens are not permanent ink, but chalk sketches, vulnerable to being wiped away by time. Your myths are drawn on sand, not stone. Scientists still debate how aware future civilizations will be of the universe's true vastness. Right now, you can look through telescopes and see billions of galaxies. But in tens of billions of years, those galaxies will have slipped away, hidden forever beyond the horizon of expansion. The night sky of the distant future may appear deceptively small, giving the false impression that the cosmos is limited to a few nearby stars. Future astronomers might never guess the richness you take for granted tonight. And that makes your window special. You are alive at a rare intersection, able to see both the nearby constellations and the faraway galaxies, both the stars of your neighborhood and the deep time relics of the early universe. This overlap won't last forever. It belongs to you, here, now, tonight. So, as you pull the blanket tighter and trace the stars overhead, realize you're watching a sky that no future generation will ever see in the same way. The constellations are your inheritance, but also your responsibility to cherish them, because they are fleeting. The night sky feels eternal, but it is as fragile as a candle flame, flickering against the wind of time. By now you've seen all the reasons why the night sky looks empty: distance, faintness, dust, expansion, horizons, the deaths of stars. And yet, What if the emptiness itself is the point? What if the darkness above isn't a failure to fill the sky, but the very thing that makes it beautiful? Imagine a canvas without blank space, a painting with no shadows, no quiet tones, no negative space to balance the colour. It would be overwhelming, chaotic, impossible to take in. The night sky works the same way. Its beauty lies not only in the stars, but in the void that frames them. The darkness is what makes each pinprick of light meaningful. Without it, the stars would blur into glare. With it, they become diamonds scattered across velvet. Here's a quirky tidbit. In Japanese aesthetics, there's a concept called ma, the beauty of empty space, the pause that makes music, the silence that shapes conversation. The night sky embodies this perfectly. The void isn't absence, it's presence by subtraction, giving your imagination room to breathe. That quiet blackness between stars is its own kind of art. Scientists still debate whether beauty is an illusion imposed by the human mind, or whether there's something universal about patterns of light against darkness. But even they admit that without the void, their work would be impossible. Telescopes need contrast to detect faint galaxies. Astrophotography depends on black skies to reveal hidden spirals. The emptiness isn't just aesthetic, it's practical. The black canvas lets you see. For you, lying beneath your blanket, the void is more than science or philosophy. It's comfort. The silence overhead mirrors the silence inside you, offering rest, balance, calm. You don't need a sky ablaze to feel wonder. You need the pause, the gap, the emptiness that makes the rare sparkle more profound. So, the next time you sigh at the blackness between stars, remind yourself, that's not nothing, that's beauty in disguise. Think about how emptiness works in your daily life. Silence makes music possible. Pauses between notes allow melodies to breathe. Gaps between words give meaning to sentences. Even rest between heartbeats defines the rhythm of life. Without spaces, everything would blur together into noise. The universe is no different. Its voids are the rests, the pauses, the quiet that turns scattered starlight into a cosmic symphony. If the sky were wall-to-wall brilliance, you'd lose perspective. Every star would drown in its neighbour's glare, every galaxy lost in blinding haze. The emptiness provides scale. It says, here is one star, and here is another, separated by a vast gulf that invites you to imagine. Without the void, there would be no mystery, no sense of longing, no reason to wonder what lies between. The darkness sharpens your curiosity as much as the light does. Here's a curious tidbit. Astronauts often describe something called the overview effect, a shift in perspective when they see Earth floating alone in black space. What moves them isn't just the sight of continents and clouds, it's the contrast between the fragile blue sphere and the endless dark surrounding it. That contrast is what inspires awe, and sometimes even tears. Emptiness is not frightening in those moments, it's what makes the fragile brightness precious. Scientists still debate whether consciousness itself might be tuned to notice contrast, not absolutes. Your brain doesn't measure light in isolation, it compares. It notices differences between dark and bright, near and far, empty and full. So when you look at the sky, the beauty you feel may be hardwired into your perception. You see wonder not in spite of the void, but because of it. And perhaps that's why lying under the stars feels so peaceful. The darkness above doesn't demand anything from you. It doesn't overwhelm you. It waits, infinite and quiet, asking only that you notice the few lights it allows through. It gives you room to breathe, to imagine, to rest. The void is not the absence of wonder, it is its stage. So tonight, as you pull the blanket tighter and let your eyes drift across the blackness, let the emptiness do its work. Don't rush to fill it. Let it cradle you. If you've followed the journey this far, you've seen every reason the sky looks so empty. Distance, faint light, dust, horizons, cosmic expansion, the deaths of stars, even the hidden shadows of dark matter. But in the end, maybe the emptiness itself is the answer. The void isn't a flaw, it's the feature. It's what transforms scattered light into something worth marvelling at. Think of a single star shining alone. On its own, it might not seem impressive, but set it against a backdrop of infinite black, and suddenly it feels profound, like a candle flickering in a cathedral. The context, the surrounding silence creates the awe. Without the void, there would be no wonder in the spark. Here's a quirky tidbit. In art and photography, this principle is called negative space. Painters leave blank backgrounds to emphasize the subject. Photographers frame solitude against emptiness to draw the eye. The night sky is the universe's ultimate use of negative space. The darkness isn't just there, it's intentional, elevating the few visible lights into symbols of meaning. Scientists still debate whether humans project too much onto the void, turning absence into poetry, but even they admit that emptiness plays a vital role in discovery. Every telescope points not just at stars but at the gaps around them, searching the black for faint signals. Radio dishes sweep the silence for whispers. Astronomers know the dark isn't wasted, it's the reservoir where surprises wait. For you, lying under your blanket, the lesson is simple. The void is not empty at all. It's the soft background that lets you dream. It absorbs your worries, swallows your noise, and hands you back stillness. The emptiness above is beauty, distilled into its quietest form. So when you close your eyes tonight, remember, you don't need a sky full of fire to feel wonder. The beauty is already there, in the canvas of black that frames the stars. The void itself is the gift, the quiet cradle of the cosmos, and the perfect lullaby for your restless mind. And now, after wandering so far across the dark, it's time to let the journey soften. You've traced the reasons why the night sky looks so empty, distances too vast to grasp, light too faint to catch, stars gone quiet, galaxies slipping away, horizons that fence in your sight. Yet, in the end, that emptiness has become something more than a mystery. It has become a companion. The darkness above is not threatening. It doesn't rush you. It doesn't demand anything. It's patient, quiet, steady. It waits, stretching calmly in every direction, while you lie here, small and safe, tucked beneath it. Feel how your breathing has slowed, matching the gentle rhythm of the void itself. Every inhale gathers the hush of starlight. Every exhale releases a little of the day's weight. There is no need to hold on to anything now. Let the silence of the sky seep into you. Let the dark cradle you as softly as a parent rocking a child. The stars you've imagined tonight, some near, some impossibly far, are still glowing in their places. But you don't have to reach for them. You don't have to solve them. You can simply let them fade into the background, like embers cooling at the end of a fire. What matters now is the quiet, the velvet black, the gentle assurance that even in the vastness of the cosmos, stillness exists. Here's a comforting thought. The universe itself is in no hurry. Galaxies drift apart slowly. Stars live and die over billions of years. Even the great expansion of space unfolds at a pace too calm for you to ever feel. Time moves differently out there, so slowly, so patiently that your worries tonight shrink into nothing. Against the backdrop of eternity, they are lighter than dust. And maybe that is the final gift the night sky offers: perspective. The emptiness is not there to frighten you, but to remind you how vast everything is, and how gently your life rests inside it. You are not lost in the dark. You are part of it, made of the same atoms, carried by the same quiet currents. So close your eyes now. Let the canvas of the void settle behind your eyelids. Imagine yourself floating, weightless, in the soft black between stars. Nothing chases you here. Nothing troubles you. There is only calm and silence and the steady rhythm of your breath. The night is long, but it is kind. The universe may be vast and empty, but that emptiness is exactly what gives you space to rest, to dream, to drift. Sleep now, carried by the silence of the sky. Let the void be your pillow, the stars your gentle nightlight. You are safe, you are small, and you are infinite all at once. Sweet dreams.